Hello, BookTube. I'm here with a bit of a Friday reads, a few things that I got in the post. I've continued on the last few days to read Saul David's Zulu, Heroism and Tragedy of the Zulu War of 1879, and published by Penguin Books, 2004. I'm on basically 200 page 290 of 390, so I have about 100 left, 100 pages left. I'm not sort of rushing this because I'm reading it slowly, so I should be done in the next day or two anyway. And I'm finding it really good. I had not read it before. This is probably the newest book that I've read so far about the Zulu War. So there are some newer things in here that haven't shown up in other books that I read, some older ones. So it's quite interesting. Uh, the There's a few downsides. He's very good. Saul David is very good in describing the movements of men and troops and regiments and the Zulu as well going in. But the maps aren't the best. I do have to get some better maps at some point of here's sort of the it's on Dewana. It's busy. It's not the easiest to follow, and none of the most of the other ones are not as well. But yeah, otherwise it's very good. The other bit of a downside is the pronunciation of Zulu names of the chiefs. And the regiments, the names of the regiments. It's quite difficult because the Bantu language. I think you need to sort of study and then learn how it's structured so you can actually pronounce them a little better. It's yeah, because you get very long names and it's hard to sort of remember who is what. It's easier, obviously, for the British, and that's what I like about this too. It's got a lot of uh, quotations from Zulu warriors that fought in the battles as Underwater throughout the whole war. So so that's very interesting. A lot of that I had not read before, and I found through that one there is a basically John Leband, another author I like on on the Zulu War and South African history. He's written a book on from the war from the point of view of the Zulus, so that should be interesting. But anyway, getting on a couple things that I got in the post. Just some used books, and they're pretty rough, but they were very cheap. I got two books here. I think they were under £8 with shipping, so I was quite pleased with that. Again, it's South African. This sounded intriguing. The Shaping of South African Society, 1652 to 1820, edited by Richard Elphick and Herman Guillaume. I've heard of Richard Elphick, at least I've heard of someone called Richard Elphick, whether it's this person or not. It's a Longman's book. Yeah, and there's one on the back here. It sounds kind of interesting too. Economy and Society in Pre-Industrial South Africa, and then Destruction of the Zulu Kingdom, the Civil War in Zululand, 1879 to 1884. So those are two that might be worth looking at. But yeah, no, this because it's a shorter period, 1652 to 1820. That's a very interesting period. South African history. It's essays. It looks quite academic. So it should be interesting. It says 300 years ago, the Cape Colony was a poor, underpopulated settlement of interest to no one but its inhabitants, its neighbors, and a few inquisitive travelers. Yet between 1652 and 1820, a complex society developed at the southern tip of Africa. The integration of southern Africa into a world economy and the dominance of whites over blacks and browns both began in this period and have since been the main themes of South African history. And this was originally 1979, and as I say, it's essays. Um, so that should be it. This will be a sooner than later read, I think. The other one is quite interesting. I had to get this because let's look at it. It's 500 years, History of South Africa, third revised and illustrated edition, edited by Professor C.F.J. Mueller. Now, the interesting part of this is that it is published in Pretoria, Cape Town, Johannesburg. It's Academica, and the editor. I like the way it describes the editor. This Mueller. He's not just a professor of history at the University of South Africa, Pretoria. He is the extraordinary professor of history. And if you don't believe me, you can see it right there. The extraordinary professor of history. Yeah, and it again is essays. Well, there he is right there himself. Sort of typical of the period. It says 500 years ago, South Africa was unknown. The civilized world was ignorant of both its people and its vast landmass. The emergence of its unknown quantity into a nation whose strengths and weaknesses are now internationally familiar is a fascinating picture, as broad in the canvas it covers as the land itself. In editing 500 Years, Professor C.F.J. Mueller, former head of the Department of History at the University of South Africa, has drawn together the views of prominent historians to present a survey of the making of South Africa from the landing of the earliest Portuguese pioneers in the 15th century down to the late 70s of this century. So it goes up a lot later than I'm interested, but it is quite substantial. It's got a lot of footnotes, it's actually a big bibliography. Wow, yeah. It's a big bibliography, about 30, 40 pages long, and it's over 550 pages of text. It is illustrated. But being from South Africa, I think that could be very interesting in a different view, possibly. So it'd be interesting to read that, and that actually could very well be my next read after the Zulu. And I'm sort of getting prepared for my October reading. I know it's usually Victober for most people, but I take a bit of a different route for October. I reread some things like M.R. James' Ghost Stories. And one I'm going to reread again here is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And it's just, I don't know, it was a fabulous film as well. But here's on the back, it's the week before Halloween, and Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show has come to Greentown, Illinois. The siren song of the Calliope entices all who, with promises of youth regained and dreams fulfilled. And as two boys trembling on the brink of manhood set out to explore the mysteries of the dark carnival, smoke, mazes, and mirrors, they will also discover the true price of innermost wishes. This is it's called Fantasy Masterworks by Golans. It's in conjunction with their SF, their science fiction masterworks. Originally, this was published in. I remember when he did this. 62, yeah. 1962, and this edition is 2015 by Golans, and it's got an introduction by Michael Durda. So that's sort of beginning of my October read. So yeah, so I reread some M.R. James, and then I delve into some other. I reread snippets of the Oxford books. There's the Victorian ghost stories, and the 20th century ghost story, or it's just ghost stories, I think. But there's several of them, but there's two that are really good. The Victorian one I really like. But yeah, no, that was just a small little video of reading, and I'm sort of pleased that I'm back into reading. That I've been able to. I have to read it, maybe an hour or so, and then I get really tired. So I either have to get up to sort of get over that tiredness of falling asleep. Otherwise, I'll just nod off. So there's no use sort of pushing the reading. So I do other things, and I'm working. Got a long stretch of work that I'm finishing out here. Today was Friday was 5 days. I've got 4 more days to go. I'm working Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then I've got 5 days off. And in the 5 days, I'm hoping to get a lot of stuff done, moving things around. But anyway, BookTube, that's it. Oh, if anybody knows other sort of October related Halloween sort of stories, I'd love to know, because I'll always add them to sort of my reading, and that's my October reading. And I want to thank all new subscribers. I've been getting quite a few new ones over the last couple of weeks. The other thing I noticed, though, like if you make comments, I don't know what happens to some of the comments. I can't find them anywhere. I get a notification. I can see them in my email, the comment, and I go I go online, and I go to read them or to respond to them, and they're not there. They're not in the in either place, either on the page of the video, or in back where it's like a comment section of ones that I haven't replied. Sometimes they show up there, but I can only see them in the email, and it says reply, and I click on that, and it says the page doesn't exist. So I don't know what's happened, because I've seen quite a few of them. So if I do not reply, or at least heart your comment, I do apologize, because it means I haven't seen it. And if it is something that you're asking me a question, by all means, ask me again. And I'll be happy to answer. But anyway, have a good reading weekend, BookTube. Take care.